Hey, gang, this is Carl White broadcasting here in the studios today at the secret headquarters for the mortgage marketing animals. You're listening to Loan Officer Freedom, number one podcast in the world today for loan officers. Thanks for you guys for sharing it to all your friends and family, and I appreciate that. I have in the studios a special guest of mine. You've done this before.
Maybe.
No, we did. We did. So this is the lovely Mrs. White. Y'all have heard me talk about her often. Her name is actually Maria.
Yes.
Everybody knows you as the lovely Mrs. White, of course,
Yes,
right?
they do.
Yeah, they come to the house. People come to the house, say, "Oh, you're the lovely Mrs. White."
Yes, they do.
So, and now you know why I call her the lovely
Oh,
Mrs. White. All right. So the last time we did an episode on budgeting,
okay. I remember that.
yeah, and getting wealthy,
Yes.
right? And I think that was very helpful. And maybe we'll put a link to that on this one. Maybe not. But anyway, so what we're going to talk about today is work life balance. And it's like busting through the myths. Because you see, I tell you what led me to do this episode today is I saw somebody say something that work life balance is actually a myth, that there is no such thing. And
Mm.
I think what that person's really saying is they haven't figured it out, and since they haven't figured it out, it's impossible. And so there is no such thing. And that kind of reminded me of the people that before the Wright brothers, man will never fly. You can't do that. And even when they saw an airplane flying across the sky, that's not going to happen. Oh, dude, it's already happening. You're just not flying. So you need to learn how to fly a plane, right? Does that make sense?
Right.
So I wrote down a grand total of 12 points here,
Okay.
and we're going to go over some of those.
Okay.
And you haven't seen these at all.
Nope.
Nope. Okay. All right. You're doing great, by the way. All
Okay.
right. So, point number one, and I just wanted to have you here just to bounce back. And
Okay.
yeah. So, point number one,
So I don't
I
need to say
put,
much.
no, I went. So, point number one is set regular work hours.
That's probably good.
It is because I have found that left on my own, I'll work all the time. But if I work off of my calendar, so in my case, my day starts at 9, not at 8, not at 8:30, but at 9, because which I'm going to get in that in a minute. I get up in the morning, I have a little quiet time, I go ride my bicycle, come back, take a shower, grab my morning tea, and usually by that time, maybe go out to the lake, feed the birds a little bit. By that time, it's 9 o'clock. So I don't work before 9 by design. And on my calendar at 5 o'clock, it says go home. And so I stop at 5, because otherwise
Something will keep you going and going.
because there's always something else to work
Yep.
on.
I
And it's just
agree.
it's like I know sometimes you ask me, said, are you done yet?
Mhm.
And it's like, there is no done. Like I'm never done. And I'm sure many of y'all can relate to that, that there's always something to do, whether you're a loan officer, there's always another hair to cut. Like there's always another lawn to mow. There's always another more painting to do. There's always a
Mhm.
refrigerator to move. So there's always something to do. So you just have to put, all right, I'm working these hours and that's it. And you just have to put a stop to it. And if you go, well, that's not enough time, then we have to figure out how to be more efficient with it or leverage other people to help you accomplish more things. So, like in my case, we get massive amounts of stuff done in a day because while I'm doing one set of activities, you're doing another one. Diane's doing another. Julie's doing another, right? Steve Kyle's on the mortgage side is doing another. And so all these people are all doing different activities. And same thing is like for you as a loan officer, there's always help available, that instead of you doing everything, leverage other people or find out what you're doing that's ineffective and stop wasting your time doing those things. But you got to work off of the calendar, and the calendar is sacred. It's like my Bible, that if the calendar says I've got a meeting, I'm going to make that meeting. And if it's not on the calendar, I'm not doing it. And when my calendar says go home, go home. So it's like my calendar is the boss, and I'm the
You're the employee.
yeah, I'm the employee of the calendar.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So I find that works for me really well.
I love
Uh,
a calendar. You know me. I love lists. I love a calendar. If not,
well, the other thing I found is a calendar actually was a freeing thing, that I thought the calendar was going to hold me back. But I find when I work in short bursts of time, And for me, that runs about 2 hours. So I'll work about 2 hours and then I'll get up for about a half an hour, go walk around the lake or just go outside, smell the
Yeah.
roses, feed the birds, pet the cat, come see what you're doing, bother
Mhm.
you, interrupt you.
Mm.
And so I like working, I work for 2 hours and take about a half an hour break, work for 2 hours, take a half an hour break. And I found that when I started living off my calendar, I actually have more free time, not less. And I actually get more done, not less. So I found that good. So, number two, I think it's important for us recovering workaholics to pursue other non work activities. In other words, have hobbies.
Mm.
And so whether that hobby, well, in my case, I love collecting old tube radios, and I know you love that part about me. You just that is the one thing that you
Yeah.
just love that hobby.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got a fair amount of old radios, old antique
A
radios
fair
around the
amount.
house. Yep. And but I think it's important, like whatever that hobby, a fair amount. But whatever that hobby is, I think it's important to have a hobby outside your work, and I think it has to have nothing to do with work. Like Steve plays the guitar, and so that's what he does. That's his hobby. Diane is camping and jeeping and hiking, right? So I think you have to have to have hobbies outside of that's not
Sure.
related to your work, right?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on that one?
No, I do yoga.
Yeah, you do yoga. Yeah, which falls to the other one.
Mhm.
Point number three about busting the work life balance myth, that there is such a thing, is I think it's important to exercise and have physical activity.
Oh,
And so I stand up when I'm at my desk, I stand up once an hour. My little Apple Watch tells me it's time to stand up. And so I'll stand up, even if for just like a couple minutes or so, stand up.
get the circulation moving.
Yeah. And for me, and I do it in the mornings to make sure I do it. I go on a bike ride every morning. And I'd say most mornings it's probably about 2 hours,
Mhm.
give or take. So I do two loops. One's 20 miles and one's 40 miles.
Mhm.
Most of the time I do the 20. Sometimes I do the 40. In the summertime, I tend to do the 40s because it's daylight longer. In the wintertime, I tend to do the 20s because it's daylight a little bit less. But I find that it boosts my mental thoughts. Like I find I
Yes.
think better these days. I'm able to concentrate longer periods of time, and it's a great stress reliever.
Mhm.
And so it helps me
Mm.
relax a little bit. And so I can't start work at 6 o'clock in the morning because I'm out riding my bicycle. And I think an important part of that is I don't wake up each morning and decide if I'm riding my bike or not. I already just it's already
It's done. You got it.
I've
You're
already
getting up.
decided. Yeah, that's it's already been decided. I decided that 3 years ago when I started the habit of doing it, right?
Mhm.
And so I think the mistake a lot of people make is they wake up in the morning. Well, should I do this? No, no, no. It's already been decided. So now I'm just following through what's already been decided. Like it's on my calendar, and I'm going to follow my calendar. And so I think having those dedicated times again helps us because it'd be just as easy. In fact, I mentioned that to you today. I got an article I want to write, and so I thought, well, gee, if I didn't go for my bike ride, I can write my article, but I'm going on my bike ride. And so I'll work the article in at some point in the day. And actually, I didn't put it on my calendar yet, but I'll work it into the day. So, all right. Number four. So, number one was set regular hours and live by them on your calendar. Number two, have outside hobbies, right? Number three would be exercise at dedicated times. Number four is mindfulness and relaxation. So some people do like meditation.
Mhm.
You do yoga.
Mhm.
For me, I'm not much one into like meditating and whatnot per se, but like I call it front porch time. And so I'll go out on the front porch and do nothing, like just sit out there. Or I'll go out, but we have a little fire pit behind the house, beside the house. I'll go sit in front of the fire pit and just sit. Nobody's talking to, not listen to the radio, not
Mhm.
listen to a podcast, just ponder for a little while. And I got that from Elon Musk. That's one of his things that he does. Not comparing myself to Elon, of course, but I see what successful people do and I copy them. And he just has this like
Quiet time.
yeah quiet time or white space where I'm just quiet. I'm not listening to anybody. I'm not talking on the phone to
You're not
anybody.
watching
I'm
anything.
not watching anything. I'm just being quiet. And I don't drink alcohol while I'm doing that. Because I don't want any distractions from the quietness. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put the phone aside.
Phone aside. Yeah. Number five, in having a work-life balance, have quality time with friends and family.
Hmm.
So you and I, pretty much every day, uh, certainly by five, most days a little before five, most days probably 4:30ish or so, we're kind of winding down. And so we have dinner very early compared to most people. I'm not even going to say what time it is.
We won't.
It's a
They're
little embarrassing on how early it is.
going to judge us.
They're gonna- so, but we do dinner very early, which again kind of marks the end of the workday. And so usually about 4:45, maybe 5 o'clock, we'll have dinner, and then around 6 o'clock we have our quiet time. And so whether it's sitting in the living room or you guys are going to hear all my dark, deep secrets today. We'll throw the cats in the little baby carriage and walk them around the neighborhood,
Yes.
right? So we do that sometimes. Sometimes I'll do an afternoon, like if you're with somebody or you're going on if you got some friends and you guys are on a girls' night out or something. Sometimes I'll go on a late afternoon
Right.
bike ride again.
Mhm.
But I think hanging out with your friends and family and having that dedicated time is important. And I think for people like me, so I'm a bit of an introvert, and those of you that know me well know that. Some of you that don't know me as well might
It's
find that,
hard to imagine.
yeah, a little bit of a surprise. But I am. I'm a bit of an introvert. And you know that.
Yes.
And but I still make a point. Like this last what was it, Sunday? I've got a neighborhood buddy of mine that also collects these old radios like I do, and we just sat out by the fire pit for a couple hours. And
Mhm.
so I've never been one much, to go bowling with the guys, kind of thing. But I think it's important to go out with friends. I do a fair. I used to do, not as much these days. I used to do a fair amount of motorcycle riding with my friends. I always thought motorcycle riding is the perfect guy activity because you're hanging out with people, but you don't have to talk to them because you're out riding
Mhm.
around.
Mhm.
And the only time you talk is when you stop at the red light, kind of
Mhm.
thing for a few minutes. And
Yeah.
so I'm not an antisocial person. I just enjoy my quiet time. And but I do think hanging out with friends and family at dedicated times is a real important thing to do.
Absolutely.
All right, next one, professional development. So part of our routine on having a balanced work life balance is to spend part of our time on professional development. I bring that up, and what made me think about it when I mapped this out this morning. That's particularly important this time of year because I usually spend the holiday season as I up my game on my professional development. In other words, I listen to a lot of webinars. I listen to a lot of Zoom meetings that other people are doing so I can learn from. I listen to even more podcasts than normal. I listen to even more books than normal. So during the holiday season, when things kind of slow down a little bit in the mortgage industry and even in the training industry, where the loan officers we train might be taking a little time off in the Christmas time, instead of trying to do a hard push and try to get them to re-engage, I spend that free time uh, like learning.
Yeah.
And so I spend more time learning that 2 week period than much of the rest of the year. And so like when things are really busy, I don't go, well, now I've been busy doing this all day. Now I need to do my professional development. I really shove it in toward the end of the year. I do it all throughout the year, but I really double down during the holiday season. So because I find it's a more efficient time to do that. Does that make sense?
That's good. Yeah, that you can do that.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
great.
Number seven, I wrote down volunteering and community engagement. 'Cause again, we're all talking about this work-life balance. So as far as like volunteering and community involved engagement to help with my work-life balance, basically, so all these things are things that take my focus off of work because it's hard for a person like me, and as most of you are listening, you know what I'm talking about here. It's hard for us to turn off our brain, so we're thinking about our marketing, our sales, the meeting that we had yesterday. And it's easy to say, like if you're putting things in boxes for a living, right? Nothing wrong with doing that. I used to do that. Nothing wrong with doing that. When you leave work, the boxes are at work, the things you're putting in boxes were at work, and now you're at home, there's zero temptation. But as a entrepreneur, the idea that our brain is going to turn off at 5 o'clock doesn't happen. Like it's going to keep thinking. So I have to get it thinking about other things other than work. And that's where all these things come into. So one of those things that I engage my head with is volunteering and community engagement. Now, I'm going to be perfectly transparent here. The idea of me going down, and I'm just going to grab something that I think is a very noble cause, the soup kitchen.
I was gonna say the soup
Yeah.
kitchen.
So I'm not one to go down to the soup kitchen
No,
and ladle soup. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. For me, I write checks for those things. And so I find that my talents are better served. And it's not that I'm too good or I don't want to go down there kind of thing. I just feel like I'm better served to write checks. Other people, I think, are better served
to
to, even,
serve.
even if they could write the checks, their heart is in the soup ladle. My heart is into writing the checks. That's like the local little Palm Harbor Little League. I think this last year we sponsored, well, there was 2 seasons. I think on one of this last season, I think we sponsored 15 teams, I think, or something like that. So a good portion of them. I don't know how many teams there are, but it's a lot.
Mm.
Well, just being transparent, I spent 0 hours down there throwing softballs. I go down there and watch sometimes, and the coaches, the adult coaches, amazing people, right? They just have the
Very.
patience of Job,
Hmm.
and they're doing a really good thing. They're better at that than I am, and so I'm better at writing the check, maybe perhaps than they are, right? Or whatever, or maybe they're great
And
at
both
that.
sides are needed, you
Both
know.
sides are needed.
Hmm.
So I believe in community involvement, and so uh, whether you're led to get your mind off of work by getting up there and picking trash on the side of the road, which we've done that
Yeah,
before,
we have.
we've done that before.
Hmm.
So whether it's to do that or whether it's more like me, you're more called to write checks. I'm going to tell you this is a very important part because I'm a big karma person, and karma is our best friend. And I think that when we do good things for other people, good things, I know good things happen to us. And Maria, you and I have been blessed beyond our wildest dreams. And
Yes,
I'm
we have.
100% convinced it's because of the giving back thing. I think that's a really big part of it. I do. I know people certainly help me when I've been down in my life, and that's happened a couple of
Mhm.
times. And so I think that's a big deal. Next one. So we had set regular work hours. We had pursue other hobbies, right, to get your mind off of work. And we can't turn our brain off. We have to redirect it, right? Exercise, because you'll have clearer thinking. And you also, I found with exercise, I'm more effective during my work hours because I'm more awake, I'm more alive.
Mhm.
Uh, the relaxation part, right? Spending time on the front porch, spending time with friends. Number 6 was professional development and being strategic about when you choose to do that. Number 7 was volunteering with and community engagement.
Mhm.
Number 8, disconnecting from technology. That's a big deal,
It's huge.
to put your phone down. And you know what?
Mhm.
You've helped me with that here recently. Is I'd be surfing the web on something when my kids were here, and it's like, Carl, you weren't saying this, but I said this to me when you gave me a little nudge in the ribs, right, in a good way. Put the phone down and spend the time with the kids because they're only here for a short period of time. Turn off the technology and spend the time with the kids. Um,
And they remember that too. They sense that.
yeah,
Oh, I guess I'm, yeah, not important enough that dad's not engaged. He's got to surf the web or something, you know.
I remember when one time, so actually it was with Katie, so our oldest. She was probably 9, and it was a Saturday morning, and I just felt like going on a car ride. And I said, Katie, you want to go for a car ride? And she goes, oh, do you need to make some phone calls?
Mhm.
So what she was saying, and she didn't say it snarky. It was like, oh, sure, you need to make some calls. So what she was really saying was, anytime we get in a car, Dad, you're on the phone. And so if you want to get in the car with me, it's not to spend time with me, it's because you need to make some phone calls.
Mm.
And I heard her say that and I went, that's coming to an end. This stops
Mm.
today.
Mm.
And so anytime I'm with the kids or you in the car, we virtually never, I mean, if we're calling somebody, it's like, hey, we're on our way. But like as
Right.
far as like having a conversation, a work conversation, never happens. If I'm in the car
Mhm.
with somebody, I'll never, ever, ever pick up the phone. So put technology aside. But I think including like certainly after work, but I think that also applies if we have email notifiers that crosses off of our phone, or it beeps every time somebody comments on our Facebook post, turn that crap off. It's so distracting. And like, the secret to getting a lot of stuff done and have a work-life balance is to work in very focused short periods of time. And if you have all these notifiers coming on in the meantime, you're not getting anything done. You think you're double tasking, but you're not. There's no such thing
Mm.
as multitasking. So yeah, disconnect from technology. I think another part, number 9, on having a work-life balance, is make sure that your work, that your office, that your desk is set up to work. So in my case, which you're sitting in it because you're the queen and you're in my throne,
Oh,
I've got a very nice. It's an expensive chair. It's a very nice chair.
it is.
So it's very comfortable, isn't it nice? It's like
It is. I
like
got good back support.
it's like you're getting a little butt massage,
Yeah,
you know.
well,
Well, per se, not a
but it is comfy.
no actual butt was massaged during the recording of this
No.
podcast. But yeah, having a good screen like up, and for me, I'm not one to have like 4 different video screens in front of me because I'm working on one thing at a time. And I'll see people, they brag, I have got 5 different screens open at one time. But my processor might have 5 different screens because they're having to do different things. Yeah, me as the leader, if I've got 5 screens on, I'm working on 4 things I shouldn't be.
Mm,
That's just the way I look at it. So, but make your work environment comfortable. Have some water or some tea brewing. Uh, for me, I've got some personalized things. I'm looking at some pictures on the wall that mean a lot to me, and it just
mhm.
helps me refocus. And I refocus, I do better work, and when I do better work,
Yeah.
I can work in shorter periods of time.
Oh, yeah, you gotta have space.
Yeah, and I've got one of my old radios sitting over here, kind of
Oh,
off camera,
the many.
and so yeah. Uh, let's see, number 9, number 10. Number 10, this kind of goes into our the last episode we did, and focus in on your financial planning. So I find that if we keep our focus on our financial planning, that we have plenty of money and the need of money. See, there's one thing, we might want more money or we might need more money, right? So I think wanting more money is okay, I guess. Needing more money is a problem, right? So I
Puts a
find,
lot of pressure on you.
yeah, and I find I do my best work when I don't need money, because then I make poor decisions because I need, you know,
Get desperate or
yeah, yeah, and it's just, yeah, it's just, and I've been in that. It's
we've
not good.
been there.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. And then I work so many more hours, so I find that if I save money, when I save money, and I put myself in a good situation, which we've definitely done that, the desperation of work is gone, and the desperation of I have to work past 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock, and once you go to bed, I need to go work some more. All that's brushed away because we've done good financial planning. It makes that totally unnecessary, and so I think that was a big part. That enough said
Mhm,
about that.
mhm.
Okay. Number 11, personal growth and self development. We kind of talked about that a little bit a few minutes ago, but that was with business development, right? This is personal development. So for me, I spend a fair amount of time listening to podcasts to make me a better me. And so I do a couple of them. So I do some spiritual ones
Yeah,
to make me a better me. In our case, I
those
listen
are
to
huge.
Joel. Yep, I
Mhm.
listen to Joel. I love Joel Osteen. So we listen to him. And I also listen to a lot of biographies and autobiographies. I'm listening to one right now, which I told you a little about today.
Yeah, Ron Howard.
Yeah, Ron Howard and his brother Clint Howard, which
Didn't even know he had a
I
brother.
didn't know he had a brother. And his brother, if you go look up Clint Howard,
You'll recognize
you'll
him.
recognize him for sure. And anyway, so it's a book that Ron Howard and Clint Howard wrote on growing up in Hollywood as, child actors and what that was like. And I do a lot, like I'm listening to Elon's autobiography. I listen to a ton of them.
Those are good.
And I just find, you know, successful people leave clues. And if I do right what they did right, it'll work out good for me. And if I learn from their mistakes, that'll
That's
work for me
huge.
too. Yeah. So yeah, I think learning, being a student of success, I think is a real big deal. And spending part of my day doing that, it helps me work more efficiently during my
Absolutely.
work time.
And spiritually, I love him too. I've been listening to great books with Christian authors that just the life of biblical times of what they went through and how it just inspires your own faith to
Yeah.
be strong.
And
And
how they were real people.
I know.
They're not fictional characters. Yeah,
No,
it's real. It's real. It's a
it
history book.
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Last one I had here, number 12, was setting boundaries.
Mm,
And what I mean by that one is when somebody says, "Hey, Carl, I got something for you to do, but it's at 7 o'clock tonight," I just don't do it. I don't work after hours. And the idea of going on a business meeting or a like a happy hour thing, I'm just not, nothing wrong with happy hours. I'm just not a happy hour guy, because that's our time. And so I've set these boundaries that I don't work before 9, I don't work after 5. Uh, and that's it. I mean, it's just a rule. I remember I learned this lesson from our dear friend Frank in La Jolla, California,
mm,
where I hooked up with this guy that was making a couple $1,000,000 a year, which at the time was just an unfathomable. I mean, it's still a lot of money. I'm not saying it's not,
mm,
but at the
mhm,
time it was unfathomable. And he was working half days, so he'd
mhm.
surf in the morning, and then at 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock or 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, he'd work, and he's bagging a couple $1,000,000 a year. So I never forget. I got his phone number through a friend, and I said, called him up, and said, "I'd like to hire you for a day." He said, "Well, I'm sorry, that's not available." And I just kind of chuckled. And I said, "Look, Frank, everybody's got a price. I've got a check here in my hand. It's got your name on it. You tell me what to write. Everybody has their price." He says, "Carl, let me tell you something, my man. Everything has its price until you promise yourself that you don't do that anymore. And I don't work for full 8 hour shift anymore, ever. And so that's not available because I promised myself that I wouldn't." He said, "Now, if you'd like to buy me for half a day, that is available." Right. And that half day ended up costing,
Yeah.
it was, I think it was 10,000 or something like that.
All right.
Best $10,000 ever spent. Now, at the time, that was a huge amount of
Yes, it
money
was.
at a time we couldn't afford it. And we did it anyway. And what a great investment that's been. So I learned in that little short conversation with him that we set boundaries, and everything doesn't have a price, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, you have to set your limits, and this is what I'm doing. And the thing I have found that I get more accomplished in what I work now, which is probably about a 32-hour work week. I get more accomplished in that 32 hours than I used to get accomplished in 60 or 70s. And we make more money now than when I was working all the time.
Mhm.
And because I think it forces us to be more efficient, because we have to get more done in a less period of time. You go, well, how do I do that? You simply focus on those things that move the needle the most, and those things that don't move the needle the most, either delegate them out or simply stop doing them. I found a fair amount of the stuff that I used to do that I thought was important, when I actually looked, in my case, how many loans did I write because of that activity? Oftentimes the answer was zero, but I'd fool myself, go, yeah, but I'm getting my name out there. I got a lot of views. I got a lot of clicks. I got a lot of likes. Likes don't buy groceries, right? Likes don't put gas in the car. And so I think it just takes a brutal honesty to ourselves as, is this activity uh, making me money, making me healthy, improving my relationship, like whatever that end result you're looking for that activity. If it's not doing it, just stop doing. I think we spend so much time doing stuff that's just totally
Or
unnecessary.
that you think you have to do,
Mm.
and you really don't.
Or do a 15-step process when a one-step process would have worked just as well. So
Mhm.
does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I cannot imagine what living with a workaholic when I was active in my workaholism addiction. And I say workaholic tongue in cheek because I never was addicted to it. It was just a choice I made, and I thought it was necessary, but I was just wrong. Because I found when I gave it up, I don't miss it. What were you going to say?
Yeah, no, it's kind of, well, kind of like we do things sometimes because that's how our parents were.
Which is how my father was.
Yeah, so we think that's normal. That's how you have to be. That's how you gotta, what you gotta do to make things work, to make ends meet.
But the funny thing, when my father worked all the time, uh, it affected me, and it still affects me today. It
I know,
does.
I know.
Sometimes there's that empty hole where I'm looking for that approval from dad that I never got. because he was working all the time.
Mhm.
And even though I saw the harm that caused in me, I did it myself. I repeated the
Yeah.
process, and I'm just grateful that I woke up
And
one day
recognized it,
and
right?
recognized it.
That it
Yeah,
isn't as big of a thing you need to do to make ends meet or
yeah. So I would tell you, as you're listening this today, um, yeah, there is such a thing as work-life balance, and anybody that says there's no such thing just means they haven't figured it out. So it doesn't mean it's not a real thing. So it is a real thing, and we make good money. We employ, and our efforts employ a massive amount of people across the nation. Uh, Loan officers are kind enough to invite us into their life to help influence them and making a better life for them. And so we get all this massive stuff done, but we do it in a 32-hour work week. And it's a real thing because I can tell you, let me tell you what the ultimate failure is. The ultimate failure is to have a successful business and a failure family life. That's the ultimate failure. And I was guilty of that, right? And I've seen that happen, and I see it happen a lot. And that's just the ultimate failure. Because I found everything can be right at home and wrong at work, and it's still good. And everything can be right at work and wrong at home, and it's just
mm,
no good. And listen to these biographies of some of these famous people. They were just a mess,
mhm,
because they spent all their time at work, and their family life just fell apart,
mhm.
which is easy to do,
It
right?
is.
It's easy to do.
It's sad.
Yeah, it
And
is. It
then you
is.
lose out and then you have regrets and you want to go through life not having regrets and to try to, listen to the right things and make the right choices.
Yeah. Well, that's about it. So I just wanted to have you on this podcast. I appreciate you doing it with
Ah,
me today.
sure.
And yeah, so I'm going to encourage you on the work-life balance. Yeah, it's a real thing. It's achievable. It just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, and yeah, that's about it. So we're supposed to have a call to action on each one of the podcast episodes,
Oh,
but
okay.
but maybe not. Well, you know what? Hey, look, if you want to, if you here, I'll give you one. If you want to work on your calendar and have an honest assessment on what you're working on, is this a good use of my time? And if you want somebody like here, let me tell you one of my favorite things is I'll have a plan together, and then I'll have somebody else look at my plan, and I'll say, "Hey, man, poke some holes in this. Show me where I'm off. Show me where you would improve. If you'd like us to have a look at your plan, or maybe you want to help develop a plan of what the day in the life of a loan officer superstar looks like, we'd love to map that out for you. If you just go to freedomclubdemo.com, and tell them you want to have one of us look at your calendar, or you want to look at our calendar and see what the day in the life or week in the life of a very highly productive loan officer. By the way,
Mm.
so Nate Carver, did you hear about Nate Carver? So Nate Carver is that wonderful gentleman. He's that loan officer
Oh, that does the
that
honeybees.
does the honeybees.
Yes.
That's right. So he brings us a jar of honey every
Yes,
time
he
he comes out
does.
of the house. So get this, Nate Carver just had his last 3 months were his best months ever. So, and he tells this story. Actually, you know what?
Save it for him.
Yeah, I'll leave it for him.
Yeah. But
But
that's cool.
while some are struggling, he's had his three best months ever,
That's great
and
news.
this month he's closing 10 loans this month. So if you let's say he makes a hypothetical $3,000 per loan, that'd be 30 grand for the month.
Ooh,
30
that's
grand for the
sweet.
month. That's more than he made all last year. And so 30 grand in a month. So that's an impressive
It's
story.
huge.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
you knew him, so I thought I'd share that. So,
It's great.
but where he started was freedomclubdemo.com. So join us on
Okay.
freedomclubdemo.com. Thanks for letting me be part of your day, and we'll see you on the next episode of Loan Officer Freedom. Thanks again, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.